Are you wanting to start a rabbitry, but you really don't know where to start? I've got 5 tips for you to help you get started on the right foot. Hey there, I'm Leah, an online educator for stay-at-home wives and rabbit enthusiasts. If you love practical tips for home and rabbitry management, then hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. All right, the first tip, and probably the most important thing that you know before you go into buying rabbits, supplies, cages, anything, is what do you want out of your rabbitry? Do you want to raise rabbits for wool, meat, pelts, have organic fertilizer? Do you want to have them pay for themselves and actually be a side hustle? Do you want to show them? There are so many options and things that you need to think about before you really get into any of it. So really get that nailed down before you honestly even move into any of these other steps that I am going to recommend that you figure out. All right, and the next one, before you decide on a breed, and honestly how many, is what kind of a life do you want to live outside of the rabbitry? Now, you might be like, well, what does this even matter? Are you someone who likes to travel and, go on vacations rather often? Do you not want to be spending your entire day out in the rabbitry? Do you want to be able to keep it somewhat manageable as far as how many you have? These are the things that you need to think about, because if you are someone who likes to travel, you're gonna have to find someone who needs to house sit. And so it's not like a dog where you can take them to a daycare or a kennel, I think that's the right word, where they'll, basically they're babysitting your dog for several days. When you have a farm or a even just a couple of other animals that you maybe don't consider yourself a farm, you gotta have somebody to come watch them and take care of them. So that, on top of how complicated are you willing to make it for that house sitter? So I don't have what would be considered a ton of rabbits, but I have some extremely large rabbits, but they are calm. So are you going to be careful of the temperament of the breed that you have? There are breeds like the checkered giant. They are basically the thoroughbred of the rabbit world. So asking someone to manage a breed like that is going to be difficult. Same thing with, like, say, Angoras, if you're wanting the wool. If you're going to be gone for a lot of days, that's a lot of work to ask someone else to take care of for you. So you just have to be careful and mindful of those things. Then the other thing is the time investment. So with having as few as I do, just simply feeding and watering every day takes me about 15 minutes. But when it takes that much time just for feeding and watering, that doesn't include clipping nails, grooming, cleaning cages, fixing something that broke, whatever it is. So you can end up in there for 45 minutes to an hour trying to fix that one thing, or to be grooming a rabbit that's molting. So really, it just depends on the more you have, the longer things are going to take. So be mindful of that as well. If you are gone 12 hours out of the day, do you want a huge herd that you have to manage on top of that? So just be careful and mindful of those things. All right, the next one is the space that you have, and there's 2 forms of this. So the space, as far as the area that you are going to keep your rabbitry in, you don't want to have, a hutch spread over here and a cage in the barn and one in the garage and all that. That would just make no sense. So what kind of space do you have? Then how large of a rabbit are you going to do? Because I can have 1 French Lop to probably every 3 Holland Lops. So those are the things that you need to think about. If you want to have a certain number, but you only have a little bit of space, well, then you're going to have to choose something smaller. Same goes for, let's say, if you want to raise meat. There's the New Zealand or the Californian, which are a little bit on the bigger side, full grown, anyways, let's put it that way. And their litters are a little bit bigger, but there's something like the Polish where they're almost half the size. So different things like that to think about, that maybe, you're gonna have to do some numbering with that one. The other thing that you need to think about as far as space goes is some litters are a lot bigger than others. And so, like I mentioned, the New Zealanders and Californians, their litters can be huge. And so you are going to want to have what I call buffer cages or grow out pens, is so you're able to spread out the litter a little bit so that they can fill out better. So if there's 10 babies in one cage, they're all like trying to get to the food, and it doesn't matter how many bowls you put out there, they're all going to go to the same one, or whatever that, or, you know, whatever thing that you have in there to feed them through. So if you're able to spread them out some, there's not so much competition. So are you going to want to split up a litter of 6 or 10? See what I'm going with this? So just be mindful of that. And sometimes that's something that you're just going to have to see if you can find a breeder and ask those questions. Maybe you don't know anyone close by that raises the breed that you want to, but you can at least reach out and ask questions about the breed, because let's just say a rabbit breeder loves to talk about their animals. So just think about the space that you need to have. And this one's a little bit shorter. If you already have current assets as far as cages or supplies or anything like that, think about what you already have. Do you want to buy bigger cages to support a bigger breed? Or are you willing to just get started with what you have and then switch breeds later as your income starts to grow or you are sustained in the breed that you have? Then this last tip that I want you to really think about is, what is the starting price for the breed that you want? And the reason that it, or the avenue that it's for, I guess I could say. I don't have a good phrase for that one, but you get where I'm trying to go. What is it intended for? So I'm going to use a Holland Lop as a perfect example, because they are a breed that you could find one all over the board. You could find one for as cheap as about $30 to $40, or all the way up to like $300. But the difference in quality is going to be drastically different. One is, more really not good for much. As far as show goes, maybe you could have it as a pet, or take it through 4-H that they're not judging it as far as body type goes. Or if you're wanting to show, you're going to have to shell out the big bucks to get the good ones. That's just a breed that they're expensive if you want a good one. Californians are another one. You could get some as cheap as like 5 to 10 on certain sale days and things like that. Or you could get some as cheap as about $10 especially if you go to a fair or something like that. You're going to be able to find one pretty low. Or you can go all the way up to a couple hundred again, but you're talking like big, like this animal better be good as far as showing and things like that. So there's some drastic, I don't want to say differences in breeds, but then there are some like mine where if you find one under $75, you're doing good. Once you start getting up to the 150, 175 range, likely the person plans on keeping that animal if they're going to charge more than that. That breed's a little bit different, but so we're talking in between 75 and 150 to 200 is what people are going to pay for that. So just do your research on the breed and kind of see what the consistency is of the prices around you too. There was someone who left a comment on the breed that I raised in another YouTube video where they said around them someone charges $600 for the breed, and I'm like, yeah, that ain't common around here. I would be laughed out of town if someone, especially in the show world, if someone saw me trying to charge that much. So that's just kind of outrageous for a rabbit. But anyways, so just kind of take your location into consideration as well. If you want more detailed help and information, make sure to grab my free How to Start a Rabbitry guide listed below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know any other questions you have in the comments, and I might even make a video about that one. So make sure to hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.